Great.
Do you ever get used to that, hearing yourself on the radio?
You get more used to it, but it's still a thrill. There was another funny time that real early on, and I was sitting again at Music Row. I used to live on Music Row. And I'm sitting at this light. It's a one-way street, and there's this guy in this van next to me, and I hear my song on the radio. I'm like, it was the first time I'd heard that when I was like, yes, yes, yes. And I'm like, oh, yeah, and I'm cranking it up. And I happened to look over, and the guy's looking at me. I went, that's me. I'm on the radio. Me, radio. And he says,
right.
Sure you are. Sure you are.
Those of us in the business, we have some weird habits. I collect hats and maybe an autograph here and there and photographs that I take, but you've probably got the weirdest one I've seen in a long time, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, my headlock picture.
Your headlock pictures, right. Yes.
I get artists to put headlocks on me. It started with Marty Robbins, who was probably about 1965. It was backstage at the Norfolk Arena. We were getting our picture taken, and Marty said, wait a minute. He said, everybody does it this way. Let's do something different. And he put a headlock on me, and they took the picture. And a couple of years later, I was probably 3 or 4 years later, I just going through some pictures, and I ran across that picture. And I thought, you know, that'd be something different. I'm going to start getting a collection of headlock pictures. Have artists put headlocks on me, all kinds of different people.
I've seen some of the headlocks there, like Dolly Parton. Does the wife ever say anything about that?
Well, she's usually there.
Oh, good.
When they're taken. Yeah, the Dolly Parton headlock. But I was thinking about having a Christmas card made saying "Merry Christmas from the Three Boobs." But, I decided against that.
Good move.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh, sorry. I don't have to teach you, Joe. I'm not into this sort of thing myself.
I am.
Don't give me any more details.
When I did it with Vince Gill, Vince has hold me like this. He says, you ought to get out more.
But when you take a look at Nashville and you talk about country music, obviously you got to talk about the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah, it's the mother church of country music and the most famous and longest lived of all the radio shows.
Nashville's Grand Ole Opry. In the beginning, George D. Hay, Roy Acuff, George Jones, Minnie Pearl, Hank Snow, Patsy Cline, just to name a few. In the beginning, the Opry was definitely pure country.
When electric guitars came in, no, that was no good. So the Opry kept a very conservative grip on the style of country music for a good number of years. And really, it's only in the time that I've been in Nashville that full drum sets were allowed on stage with bands on the Opry.
You can trace country music here at the Hall of Fame in Nashville. You'll even find a touch of Elvis. And today's new breed, Garth Brooks, Reba McEntire, the crossover stars who mean mega bucks for country music.
What is it that draws people to country music? Is there anything you can put your thumb on?
Well, there are 2 or 3 things you can talk about in terms of why country music is so popular. I think one of the things is that it tells the real-life stories of adults. So it's a music that's designed for listening that really treats the concerns of adult Americans. And I think that's become more and more attractive as the population has aged just a bit, and as the baby boomers start to settle down with their families and maybe want to stop dancing to rock and roll and are ready to listen to some music. Country is right there, I think, telling the stories of urban and suburban a real life up close.
I think in the year of 1982, only one brand new act was broken. Now that's not very much, so you can tell how country music was going back in those days. Then along comes Randy Travis and records straight ahead country songs. It's just honesty. It's straight ahead, and people said, okay, by the millions, we love this music. Offer us some more, and we'll continue to buy it. And since then, that trend has just been up, up, up.
Just about all of America is catching on to this. They have an ear for it.
I agree, and I think there are 2 or 3 factors that play in that are really new. I mean, certainly the music video, the tremendous success of format radio, the dance craze, I think that's kind of helped bolster certain kinds of country music. All that together, I think, account for country's real new broad appeal.
Disc jockeys I talked to that play country music, and Joe Hoppel is the one that said it to me. He said the country fan is different because the country fan wants to know everything about that particular artist. They want to know what they eat. They want to know how they live. They want to know what kind of car they do. Do you find this to be true?
I think it's true, and I think they also tend to be loyal over a long period of time. There's a real interest on the part of the fan in the personality and the character and the lifestyle of the artist. And by the same token, in country music, the artist is willing to provide that information and to make themselves available for autographs and posing for pictures and make their lives open to the fan in a way that doesn't happen in pop or rock music or in movies or with other celebrities.
I think we had some marvelous homemade apple pie and jam one morning, and then the next time I came in, we had clam chowder.
But you see, Ed, that's what I was saying about the people who listen to country music. All the times that I was playing for the 3 years that I played pop music, none of that ever happened. It's when I switched to country music that people start bringing you fried chicken, and people know you, and you get to be part of their family. And I didn't have that feeling when I was playing pop music, that it's in country music that people accept you as a person and not just a voice coming out of the radio.
I worked Norfolk many times with the different stars, Ray Price, Eddie Arnold, Hank Williams. Yeah, because I was a bass player and I worked with all of them from time to time, and Norfolk was always one of our favorite places to play, and always had crowds.
From the beginning, WCMS has found ways to get both the music and the stars in front of their Hampton Roads neighbors.
We ran a couple of shows with one headliner and maybe 2 supporting acts that didn't do very well, frankly. So we decided before we packed it in, we were going to put on a monster show. So we would bring in 2 or 3 headliners and 3 maybe supporting acts. And they went over very, very well. The prices of the shows were like $1 for adults, 50 cents for children, 75 cents for servicemen. So we had actually whole families come because it was cheaper than hiring a babysitter. You could bring the kids along with you.
One of the interesting things that we did was get a flat-bottom truck and drive around to various places and pull up front of businesses and put a show on, which anybody could see, of course, and it impressed advertisers as well as listeners. But one of the people that we did that with was Jimmy Dean, who, as you know, has now moved up near Richmond, Virginia. Back then, he was a struggling young artist trying to get started, and he was the spokesman for a dog food, and I cannot remember the name of the dog food, but the purpose was sell the dog food. We'd pull up in front of grocery stores, and Jimmy would get out and do a show, and at one point, he actually took some of the dog food and ate it to show how good this dog food was and how much the listeners would really appreciate it.
Now, George, we're not talking about the sausage he's selling now.
I was just going to say, I'm sure that he never thought then that he'd be in the food business selling sausage. That's right. Quite a unique thing, which was in the book that I wrote about country music, by the way.
We all were writing the story of country music because we were brand new, really, and country music wasn't that big. It was a very modest business in the early 50s.
It was a modest business, and when Elvis Presley first came to town, he seemed like a modest young man, until he stepped on stage at the Norfolk Arena. It was 1955. He was unknown and only 4th on the playbill, but the crowd went wild. 4 months later, he returned as the headliner.
Now, is it true that Colonel Parker said to you, look, I'll let you have this contract for $50,000, and we know who we're talking about? Is that true?
That's true. Keep in mind that at that point, the Colonel had just recovered from a heart attack. He handled Hank Snow, who was a very prominent country music performer at that time, and Eddie Arnold, I believe, who were very prominent stars. And here was a young fellow, Elvis, coming along, whose future was unknown. It was obvious that he was meteoric in his popularity, but still, it was too early to know for sure what was going to happen. We were sitting at the old Center Theater in Norfolk with a show going on. The Colonel was seated next to me, something unusual right there. He was rarely sitting down. He was usually out promoting. He was one of these people that kept his pockets full of emery boards and pencils with Elvis's name on them and his name and Eddie Arnold's, and he would give these things away. But here we were sitting because he had just recovered from a heart attack, and he was not sure of where his health was going to lead him. And he had enough to do. And so he was peddling Elvis. And I, being all-knowing, of course, felt that this was not the way that I wanted to go. And as a matter of fact, when you think about it, had Elvis joined us, he probably would have been a disc jockey on WCMS this very day. You know?
A very highly paid disc jockey.
And that was a true experience.
Coming up in our next 3 in a row, Faith Hill. the lady that's going to be in concert opening up for John Michael Montgomery and Reba McEntire, the 25th at the Hampton Coliseum. And of course, WCMS will be there giving you the opportunity to have front row passes and take you backstage too. Remember, from morning until night, Monday through Friday, more people listen to WCMS than any other radio station. We sure do appreciate it.
In the beginning, country music was pure and simple. Today, it's still pure, but very high-tech.
It started with, of course, the acoustic band and one overhead microphone, and the singer had to stand near that. Of course, now music has changed. Technology has changed. The engineering, the digital mastering, the instruments themselves, electrifying everything as we've come into the rock age, and country took the electric instruments involved. That all adds to the production value and the sound and makes it sound better.
I broke into country music, playing country music in 1954. I was playing country music on the all-night show then. And even then, people complained about it. Said, you know, this new country music, I mean, look, Hank Williams has got a steel guitar in his band. That ain't country. Ernest Tubb has a drum. No drums in a country band. You know, you can't do that. It's not country. So this new trash is going to ruin the country music business. So we've been hearing that all through the years. There's no right or wrong or black and white about what is country music and what isn't country music.
I think it's all changing for the better. I don't really see that it's changing that much. I see in the last 10, 12 years, I've seen a fusion of music. I've seen rock and roll, country, gospel, and everything kind of come in together. And that's the way it should be, I think. And then every now and then, if you want to do a pure gospel or a pure country or a pure rock and roll, that's fine, too.
Is there room for all of this, or are we going to have the old-time country versus the new-time country?
Well, it's a challenge to radio because, you know, country radio has remained throughout its history, through all the changes, it's remained one thing. It hasn't split into adult contemporary country or traditional country, and there may be a lot of pressure over the next 2 or 3 years for that to occur, for us to develop separate radio formats to serve different kinds of audiences and to have a place for the wide variety of artists.
What would you say is the future now, and I'm talking competitive-wise, when you folks first started out way back in 1954, it's a little bit tougher now because there's other country music stations in the market. Do you just go ahead and just say, hey?
No, actually, we've had competition ever since we came into this market. We've had heavy competition before. It's just that people jump on the bandwagon when they find something's hot, and country is about as hot as anybody could ask for. We both love the business and wouldn't change anything in our lives, really. It's a beautiful business to be in. It's great when you can have fun doing what you do for a job.
Well, look back in a thumbnail sketch in 40 years. How would you summarize all of it?
As a great experience, as an experiment that turned out right. And I think the fact that we have been programming country music longer than any other station in the world shows, I think, in part that we made the right decision. It's kind of fun to make a right decision and 40 years later be able to look back and say, aha, I told you so.
Hi, this is Patty Lovelace, and I want to say congratulations to WCMS for 40 years of making country music explode.
Hi, this is John Michael Montgomery saying congratulations on 40 years of top country in Hampton Roads, WCMS.
Hi, this is Tricia Yearwood congratulating WCMS for 40 years of top country in Hampton Roads.
Hi everybody, this is Billy Dean, and I just want to say congratulations for 40 years of top country and Hampton Roads to WCMS.
Hi, I'm Mark Millen with the group Sawyer Brown, and I'd like to say happy 40th anniversary to WCMS from Sawyer Brown.
Hello, this is Marty Stewart, and you're listening to WCMS, where country music started.